Welcome to the Long Range Pursuit Podcast, presented by Gunworks, where we learn about and share long-range shooting techniques, science, and gear.
All right, welcome back to another episode of the Long Range Pursuit Podcast. This is another Instructor's Corner episode. Really, it's a collaboration with Landon, who's kind of our podcast guru anyway. I'm just kind of hosting this one, so I can ask Landon really about the NRL competition that we put up on Sheep Mountain, that Landon was the brains and brawn behind all that, and how we can kind of apply that as a training venue as well, or how that can be applied to hunting. So first thing, Landon here. So thanks for coming on and
happy to. Yeah, it's funny you call me the podcast guru. If you'd ever said that would end up on my resume a couple years ago, I would have told you not a chance in the world. Yeah, it's kind of funny how things go. But when you start a podcast, you gotta. One thing that you don't think about is you got to have somebody to be there every week to run an episode.
Yeah.
So, luckily we've got a pretty good team. We've had a lot of people been able to jump in and start taking some of that load off. I think it's been good to get a lot of different perspective and voices and personalities involved.
Sure.
Over the last few years, but
it's almost like they just needed somebody, and then you became that guy.
I think when we started, the whole idea was Aaron was going to be the host and the guy, and the reality is that Aaron is trying to run a business with 100 people, and he doesn't exactly have the time to jump on and do a podcast every single week.
Yeah.
And so, that burden kind of landed on my shoulders until we were able to kind of spread things out a little bit. But it's been a fun journey for sure.
Yeah. Well, I've been on a few that you've hosted and learned a lot. So, I mean, that's one thing I learned, is that hosting a podcast is its own art itself. I'm not there, guys, so bear with me. But
we're not personalities right here. We're all hunters and shooters at heart, and we just happen to have a platform to be able to share a little bit of that with some people. And so we're not maybe necessarily the most polished or practiced, but hopefully we have at least some insight to share with people at least.
Yeah. So hopefully you guys enjoy just listening to our conversation, really. But, the big thing with this is just the NRL Sheep Mountain Shootout. Why don't you start off by telling everybody what NRL is?
I'll probably start getting long-winded here and cut me off, but Gunworks, we're a hunting company, right? I mean, that is like in our DNA, bred into us. Like, that is our focus. That's why we exist, is hunting and long-range hunting, especially being in Wyoming. And so our focus, the way we build guns, the way we approach our products, our entire philosophy revolves around drawing elk tags last week, and all right, now let's go frickin', shoot an elk at where we can find it. It might be 400 yards, it might be 1,000 yards. And so we've kind of evolved into this long-range game, and Aaron really was a pioneer in that long-range space. Well, fast forward, 10, 15, 20 years, and the long-range space has evolved dramatically and grown way beyond, kind of where it started in Aaron's garage in Otto, Wyoming. And the natural progression is, you've had like bench rest shooting and, PRS and some of this other stuff has popped up over the years, lots of different disciplines in shooting as a sport rather than as a means to an end. It is a means or an end in and of itself, right? And so a lot of these sports have popped up. Well, a couple of years ago, I think some of the guys that have been doing this PRS, which is much more like race gun, it's very rote and organized, and where your targets are, how far away they are. People kind of started getting bored of that and said, well, how can we make this a little bit more hunting relevant, and how can we pull more hunting focused individuals into the shooting sports?
Mm-hmm.
And so it kind of started, this is a relatively new segment of the sport that just started a couple of years ago, and a couple of guys got together and started saying, well, what if we hid the targets instead of told everybody where the targets are and how far away they are, so they could just watch their buddy shoot it and learn, okay, well, I need to hold this much wind, and that my dope's already dialed in my scope before I start shooting, because that doesn't really help any of us in a hunting scenario.
And it's its own thing, right?
It is.
It's not a knock on PRS. It's just, hey,
it's just a different discipline. Yeah. I'm not a race car guy, but you got your Formula One and NASCAR, you got all this different stuff, right? And they're just different styles and different approaches and different sets of rules. And so this NRL hunter kind of evolved just here in the last maybe 4 or 5 years. And the focus really was on pulling hunters in to the shooting sports. And not just that, but it became a way for us to practice and become better hunters, and to make everybody else better hunters in the long run. Because even a lot of these guys that are really focused on the more race gun styles of matches, a lot of them still hunt.
Mm-hmm.
But they started realizing, well, this 3-gun match or this PRS match doesn't really necessarily at the end of the day make me a better hunter.
Mm-hmm.
But this NRL format, with some of the approaches and the rules and the format that they've made this match, and we'll kind of dive into that, but it really does replicate, at least as closely, I think, as you can in a organized formal match format, a realistic real-world hunting scenario. Mm-hmm. And so this was our bread and butter. And so when we saw this coming about a couple years ago, and I told you I was going to get long-winded here, but we saw this coming about a couple years ago, I went out and shot a couple matches, put myself out there. It was pretty intimidating, but I, really quickly, just like about anything else, you get pretty addicted. It's like I'm either out or I'm all in, all the chips on the table, right? And so I started jumping into it. And right about the same time, we used to shoot at Monster Lake here in Cody, and we lost it. Kanye came in and bought it.
Yep. And
so we were looking for a new property to be able to run some of our advanced mountain courses and wind courses. And we ended up leasing Sheep Mountain. It's this really cool property. It's right on the hill, right on the ridge line that divides the North and the South Fork of the Shoshone River here in Cody. Right, it's right over the top of Buffalo Bill Reservoir. Just super beautiful, iconic area. And I think I must have just shot my first NRL match a month or two before we went up there and explored that property for the first time. And I just remember walking out on the edge of the balcony, I call it, our big place that we shoot up there. And it was like, dude, this would be the most epic place to run one of these NRL hunter matches ever. And so kind of started working towards that and got involved, and eventually was to the point where reached out to Travis. We knew Travis and worked with him in the past at the NRL, National Rifle League, and said, hey, we would really like to host a match. We've got the resources, we got the property, what can we do? And we eventually got on the schedule, and last year was our first match up there.
Did Travis ever come out and see it before, or did he just say, okay, I trust you?
I think I hit Travis up a couple of years in a row, maybe once or twice. And I think probably they had the schedule already full for the year. I think I had to build a little bit of trust there with him, but I think it helped that we had some videos and we had some photography and some understanding of what it was. And we had run several years prior. Yeah. Several years prior, we had run some NRL matches, much more like a PRS format. Mm-hmm. And so, we had a little bit of history there. He knew that I'd been out to a few matches and competed. And so he was willing to put some trust in us to let us run a match. And we put a lot of work into it. Mm-hmm. And it turned out fantastic last year, and just continuing the tradition this year even better, and hopefully keep that going on for a long time to come now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, one thing I think is cool with Travis is, is it his thing? Like, is NRL his baby, or?
Well, he's the head in the NRL. I don't know what you'd call him, the founder or CEO or whatever he is, but kind of organizing the whole thing. But he treats it as I believe, and someone else could come in and correct me, but I think it's basically a nonprofit, right? I mean, and not necessarily in the way that, it's a business for Travis, but he's promoting a sport and facilitate. He's a much more of a facilitator and an organizer and a planner, mm-hmm. Than anything. And I think that's where his strengths really, really lie, on kind of building this organization that can support. And so, you run an NRL match, and it's not necessarily Travis's match. He's just kind of helping provide the tools for you. He's providing the rules and the system and the setup to create a match and have a systematized and kind of consistency across all the matches. And so, then you have this kind of finale Grand Slam or championship at the end of the year where all the best shooters from each of the matches come together and vie for the, the top spots.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, Travis is obviously has been the key or instrumental in organizing the NRL Hunter matches, but you've got a lot of match directors that have worked together to kind of develop the sport, evolve the rules. We get together as match directors every year and kind of review the rules and review proposed changes.
Sure.
And it has evolved over the past few years, I think, for the better as well as things have gone on.
Well, that was kind of going to be my point. It was not so much the evolving part, but that Travis, he's the face everyone knows, but how you kind of explained to me, Landon and I were just hiking our butts off, putting steel up there. And I was talking about one target or something. And Landon's like, oh, well, let's put it here. And, I don't want to make it too hard, but I also want it to be a little spicy, is the word you kept saying, And then I kind of said, man, if I was running this or if I was running an NRL match, I would probably do some of this and that, as we were kind of just discussing how we want to do stuff. And you're like, yeah, each match director kind of has their own personality, and their match really reflects their personality. And I thought that was interesting. And then when we, the ones that I've been a part of, Travis is there, and I mean, he's the man, but the match director's running the thing. And Travis is really just an overseer and kind of help here and there where you may need it, or the safety officers or the ROs need it or what.
Absolutely.
But I think that is really cool that he gives the reins. That match director really is the one running the show.
He's there to hopefully help kind of maintain some integrity, right? Because you want some consistency. You want the rules as they're established to be the same across all the matches. But then there's also some lateral limits allowed to match directors to say, well, I'm going to do it this way or this way, right? And that's relatively defined in the charter for the NRL Hunter series. And so, I mean, every set of terrain, every course of fire, every area, every match director, there's going to be some slight changes and kind of differences in approach. And, some matches are much more, I wouldn't say easy, but more beginner oriented, and some are a little bit more advanced depending on the terrain, I mean, Sheep Mountain in general, I think you and I setting up, we went and shot a couple of stages, and I think you remember me saying, man, this might be too easy. Mm-hmm. You gotta at least challenge people. That's why we're there, is to make ourselves better hunters. And if we're hitting 100% of the targets in a match setup, then we're probably not challenging ourselves hard enough.
Yeah.
But one thing that we learn at Sheep Mountain is the conditions and the terrain are going to dictate that for us. And so you could have very, very large, generous sized targets. You could have relatively easy to find targets, but the lighting might change, the wind might pick up on you, and it could go from like easy, shoot and fish in a barrel stage to soul crusher stage.
Yeah.
And we had a couple of those at the match where it's like they were easy stages, but when the wind came up, people were, really, really struggling. And it was a good learning experience for a lot of us.
Yeah. And even another specific one I'm thinking of is just like you talked about, the lighting change.
Yeah.
They had one of the stages that was kind of like a gimme stage to people couldn't find the targets.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I mean, I like that because obviously when I'm competing, it's frustrating.
Yeah.
But that's what hunting is, and your targets aren't painted white, and it's hard to find. So anyway, definitely an environment that can challenge you for sure.
Yeah.
I think that's what's cool about Sheep Mountain. I mean, heck, the other one that I did was it Ghost Hunter down
in Arizona.
And we had pouring rain on us, and we were shooting through it, and then you couldn't see targets at all because of the rain. Yeah, but that's what I think is cool about it is that you try and push through,
tough it out
until it becomes dangerous or whatnot. Then they cut it. But okay, so kind of talking about Sheep Mountain itself, and maybe we'll come back to that a little bit. We can describe a little bit more in detail some of the things that happened at the award ceremony and some experiences there. But the big thing is, how does it make you a better hunter? We keep talking about that. The big thing with any competition thing you're doing, people game the game.
Oh yeah.
And if it's within the rules, then do it. And I learned that the first one I went to, where I shot a stage a certain way and then asked a buddy how he did it, and he told me, and I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't know you could do that. That's way easier when I did. And so, you'll learn how to play the game, but man, it does transfer to hunting, and I just kind of wanted to hit some of those points.
Yeah, and so for those that are or maybe have not been to a match or not familiar, just kind of give you a little bit of an rundown on how it's organized, and I think that helps explain how it makes us better hunters. Is, I think I alluded to before, it's like a golf course. You've got basically 18 stages, and you'll have targets set up on each of those stages. You can have a stage with one target and 4 positions that you'll shoot it from. You'll have a stage with 2 targets and 2 positions that you shoot from, where you're going to have a stage with 4 targets in 1 position. So it's kind of those 3 scenarios. And, we're trying to essentially make these blind stages. And so when you are ready to start a stage, you get 4 minutes, and that you're looking at, say, you've got 2 coyotes somewhere out there, and you got to shoot them from 2 positions.
And that's all 4 of you.
You know that, and that's all you know. That's all you know. In theory, that's the idea. And so the RO is going to walk up and say, okay, you've got 4 minutes. Do you understand what you're looking for? You might be staged over the side of a hill or behind a tree or somewhere, so you can't really see what's happening. So you have no idea where the targets are. You have no idea how far away they are. You have no idea what setup you have to shoot from, right? You don't know if you're going to be shooting prone or off of a log or a rock or whatever. And so what this does is the timer hits go, and you're like, okay, well, I got to run over the hill and find my place to shoot from.
All I know is I have 2 coyotes.
All I know, I got to find 2 coyotes, right? And so timer hits go, you're running, you're excited because you're competing already. You're running, and so you're getting your heart rate up. Now you run up, and the RO's going to say, okay, well, here's your shooting position. You got 2 rocks that you got to shoot from, whatever else. And, there's maybe a couple flags that say, okay, start your search in this general direction. But that's it. And so now you've got all your gear on you. You're pulling out your binoculars, your rangefinder, whatever. You're finding, okay, well, I got a coyote over here. All right, well, what distance is it? Okay, well, what's my dial up? What's my wind hold? Right? And then you got to find your other coyote, and he's probably hiding under a tree like way over here, and you got to spend a couple minutes searching. And so you're under this time crunch. You're trying to find targets, which is half of 90% of what hunting is finding your target.
Mm-hmm.
You got to figure out what your dope is. You got to dope your wind, and then you got to get down and build your position and shoot all on the clock. Manage all of your gear. First time you do it, it turns into a total yard sale. You got stuff rolling down the hill, and you get a range, and then you throw down, you get ready to shoot, and what was that range again? Oh no, and so it really is, to me, as real world as you can create a hunting scenario. You don't know when that animal's going to pop up. You don't know how far away it is. You got to figure out, have a good system to determine your dope. You got to be really good at determining wind calls on the fly. And you got to do it all under pressure, under a time crunch. And you got to make those good shots count. And they reward first round impacts with double the points over a second round impact.
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, just rolling all of that into one, I think with some pressure it's just about the perfect storm for, okay, you're going to fall flat on your face the first few times, but after a while, you're going to kind of build this system, and you're going to learn the order of operations that works well for you. You're going to learn that you need to range before you do wind after or before or whatever else. If you do things in the wrong order, you start losing track of gear, then it costs you a lot of time. I think contrast that with kind of the average. I would say average. Some guys are a lot more disciplined at the range, but the range day, you go out, you're casual, whatever. You pull out your gear, you pull out your boxes, your nice fancy box of reloaded ammo, and you sit down, you maybe take a shot. Man, my wind call was off. I'll just send another one. And so I think we tend to kind of, and I'm speaking from experience, but I've also observed how a lot of guys shoot. And I think we tend to do ourselves a disservice with a lazy day at the range, because there's no time crunch, there's no pressure to perform, and there's no consequence if we don't make that first round count. We just follow up with another one. So really, it turns into send a sighter and then dial it in. I tend to do the same thing hunting or practicing at home when I'm getting my final preparations for hunt. I've probably told this story on here a dozen times. You guys are probably rolling their eyes. But I do this, it's just me. It's like I'll happen to have a range on my back porch, which is nice. Not everybody has that, is that lucky, but I'll go out and I give myself one shot in the morning before I leave for work. And it's one shot. And it's like, it's make it or break it. So, that gun's cold bore, it's been sitting all night, whatever else. And I have to look at the wind. I have to do it all. And if I miss, then I get to sit there, drive to work, sit all day and think about, okay, well, why the heck did I miss? And what do I need to do better next time? And that just added a little extra bit of pressure onto that. And maybe some kind of self-inflicted consequence, to make that first shot counts, or else I think makes for much more effective practice.
Mm-hmm.
Similar, not the same setup, but similar result to what we're getting in NRL hunter matches, I think.
Yeah, it's funny you say consequence, because that's the hard one that you can't really create on your own.
Sure.
You almost have to do a competition or something to get that consequence or that feeling of defeat.
And a consequence maybe not the right word, but you just put a little bit of teeth into it, right? And or there's some incentive to perform on the competition side of things, right? If I do well, then I'm going to beat my buddy over there. I'm going to get something off the price table, maybe, if I'm lucky.
Yeah. And if you're a alpha dude, like, consequence is what you want. You want to compete and perform. And I want something that makes me want to perform, because I don't want this, or whatever, whether it's you just being low on the score
or competing with yourself for that matter, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
But I've just never thought of it that way. And I like that, because again, I like to do the same thing, not so much like, okay, this hunt's coming up, I need to start prepping myself and give myself these scenarios. I think that's great training. Yeah. But I'm just saying, on a day, even when I check my data at the range, one of the last things I do is, there's a target at like 526. It's a super, like, in the meat and potatoes of shooting distances out here. And so that last one, there's like 3 targets right in that area. And I'll just put a 1 minute timer on my phone and lays down, shoot all 3 of those in a minute is the plan, right? Yeah. And, it's fun. It gets you going. You try to beat this time, and you want to get every shot hit on target, but there's no consequence at the end. Yeah. So anyway, to me, the consequence, like participating in a competition, that just gives it that extra step, because you don't want to look like a fool either. Yeah. And you want a prize from the prize table. You want to beat your buddies. Anyway, I think consequence is a good thing in training. It is.
One thing that I think we tend to focus so much on the ballistics side. And I guess when I say ballistics, I'm talking like the actual drop compensation element of long-range shooting. I think it's just one of those natural things that we tend to gravitate towards as humans, because we gravitate towards the simplest, most obvious answer. Kind of like in precision shooting, you're looking, a lot of guys get so fixated on group size that they forget all the other important elements there. And that really is just one very minor piece. And it's almost a gimme, or it's almost the commodity portion of long-range shooting is either the group size or your drop compensation, because it's just a number. You plug it in to a calculator with modern technology and the tools that we have. You plug it into a calculator and you've got a solution. But the thing that gets less attention, but I think it's brought to the forefront in some of this, is things like wind calls, right? Things like gear management, things like your ability to build an improvised shooting position on the fly under pressure with limited tools and with limited time to analyze and try this or try that or try whatever else. And so I think those 3 skills actually, honestly, are the most important aspect, because everything else, like say, whether you're dialing up, 15 minutes or 17 minutes or whatever it is, it's just a couple clicks at the end of the day, and it's given to you in the output of whatever ballistic calculator you're using. But those other things are much more, they take skill and time to learn and perfect.
Yeah, that's something I see. Level 3 that we do level 1, level 2 out here at our own range, and level 3 we go up on Sheep Mountain and we shoot basically the same kind of course that we're doing with NRL.
Yeah.
Some different targets and, different scenarios and stuff, but we teach, how to use your pack, how to use your tripod, you need rear support in this position, blah, blah. And when we see new shooters, you don't realize that because you're instructing it day in, day out.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay, this is obvious. If you sit down, you got to have this in as rear support, whatever. And new shooters come in and they don't know how to get in those positions. And it's just, again, if you don't know, you don't know. You've never been in that position. So you just had no idea that's what you should do. And so you're talking about being able to improvise when you see a whatever structure you're going to shoot off of, or your tripod or whatever. Gosh, I didn't realize that, man, it really has been a learned thing through the years. It's not just it's freaking obvious, I mean, there are some things that guys are creative, and that's what's kind of cool about these NRL stages too, is you see guys get really creative with
100 guys will shoot a stage 100 different ways. It really is fun to sit back like as an RO and just watch 100 guys come through a stage. It's a good way to learn, for sure.
And you see all the different equipment and everything people have, which you talked about a little bit, but equipment management, I think that's a big one that it transfers big time to the hunting. The funny thing I always think about is packs, getting a new pack. Yeah. I hate getting a new pack because you know exactly where that zipper is. I know exactly where my knife, my headlamp, my Air Pro, whatever.
Reorganize everything, relearn the whole system.
Yeah, it's a whole new system. And you see that. I remember doing that, the gun sight match. Holy cow, I couldn't decide where to put my dang rear bag, what strap to clip it on until like the 6th stage, and then I finally had something down.
Exactly.
Anyway, I see a lot of guys, equipment management is where they make it, break it. Thing. Creating the system, you hit that a lot too, where it's like, I see guys dial with their left hand, and then the next time they dial with their right hand.
Sure.
And then they're kind of fiddling with this, and they've they mess that up, and so so they're changing their system. And then you see the guys who win these things, are very competitive. They're doing it's almost the exact same way every time. It's very methodical.
It really is inspiring to watch some of these guys that are just absolute masters of this game. And a couple observations. I'm not one of those guys, right? But you're absolutely right. Those guys, they're under a time crunch, but they're so efficient and fluid that it looks like they're not even in a hurry, right? You'll see the guy that's just sprinting and hustling, and usually, I'm usually that guy, yard sale, and then these other guys, they'll just kind of casually stroll up and throw down a bag and throw down their gun, and okay. And so I think it all kind of comes together, right? It's the equipment management, it's the flow in the process. One thing that's absolutely key. Everybody thinks that these guys are really a really good shot, and they are. But one of the biggest things I've seen is they are phenomenal at finding targets. And that's kind of one of the unique things with this style match, is that some targets are kind of hard to find, and that doesn't play into the shooting part, but it does play into the hunting part quite a bit. But the guys that are at the very top of the game they're not missing targets. Like they are finding all of the targets. They're phenomenal glassers, right? They can find those targets. And then they can build those positions efficiently and pull off the shots. And, the wind is obviously a big piece of that as well.
Well, I think, yeah, absolutely. And if you knew this answer, if I knew this answer, then we'd be those guys. But
exactly right.
How do they find targets so fast?
I mean, you look at John Pinch, Matt Alwine, to the guys that are, I usually expect to see very, very high on the ranking. Both came out to our match and did well. And I mean, they're both just phenomenal hunters. I mean, they hunt. Like, they're not just competitors. John just drew a sheep tag in Idaho this year.
Awesome.
So I mean, these guys, they spend a lot of time in the field, and I guarantee you, they're that guy that you're out there on the mountain. It's like, oh, dude, you're spotting some bedded buck under a brush 2 miles away that nobody else on the mountain would have seen.
Yeah,
they're those guys, and that's I mean, one of many things that makes them really, really excellent competitors.
So LASIK is one of them.
I guess so. I'm noticing my eyes starting to go. I need to probably visit the eye doctor.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, the only thing I don't think this so much applies to NRL because you're under a time crunch.
Yeah.
But one like glassing or finding objects type of training that I had in my background was you read a book from left to right. And so your mind skims left to right. But if you stop and go the opposite way and scan right to left, your eyes like catch more things because you can't scan as smoothly as you would.
This is news to me. This is actually really cool.
Yeah,
this is from like sniper school.
Yeah, when we do our observation lanes and stuff, and we're finding these hidden targets, and I mean, you could literally fail sniper school for not finding a certain amount of targets out in the field, right? And so that's what you do is you would just scan. You could grid and all those techniques, but the main one I'm hitting here is just
right to left. See, and that's funny because most of these stages are set up with targets aligned either left to right or near to far is generally how they do them. So that's a little bit counterproductive to the way they're setting up some of those stages, but that is interesting.
Yeah. And I haven't done any like, I'm going to test myself doing it this way and then test myself doing it that way and come up with numbers
taught.
And so we're taught, and it seems to make
sure there's some science behind it that they wouldn't be teaching if it weren't there weren't some some to back it up there.
Yeah. Huh. But okay. So going back to like eyesight or just being able to spot targets and whatnot, equipment itself, binoculars. Okay. Like what system are you using to find targets and then lays? And this is hunting world, this is everything. Now, I'm not just talking NRL. One big advantage that I found was I'm always binos, then a rangefinder. And then we had the BLR 10B came out with Revic, and the match I did down at Gunsight, I brought those, and it's just like, I don't want to use these. I've got my system already. Yeah. And then I started using them, like, holy cow, I have to find a target twice. They're binos and my scope. I don't have to find it 3 times, binos, rangefinder, scope. So that, game changer. So much faster.
And we had the BR rangefinders for, they've been around for years and years, and we always wanted an integrated rangefinder binocular. It took us a few years to get there, but it really is the best way to do it. There's certainly applications for having a handheld, separate rangefinder unit, but as far as efficiency goes, combining 2 units into one motion instead of 2 motions, right? You're already in the binos when you find your targets, so simply being able to hit a button and get a range and a dial and a wind solution, all without actually changing and going and finding and having to reacquire your target is an absolutely huge deal. Big advantage.
Yeah. What are some other equipment things that maybe are new technology or some things you use out in the field? NRL match out in the field. I could think of one that you use that I don't see a lot of guys using, the PMR.
PMR is awesome
because people don't know about
now
it.
We're calling it the Radical, right? The Gen 2 is the Radical with the integrated ballistics. And, I love that scope. And I've been using it at NRL matches since the beginning. It's awesome to have all of your ballistics, all of your wind within the heads-up display. So you're not having to change anything or jump around, look at drop charts or, whatever else. The major disadvantage of that scope is it's heavy. Now the Radical, the Gen 2 that we just came out with is, I think, almost a pound lighter, like 10 ounces lighter than the original. So now all of a sudden that scope is much more hunting rifle viable or hunting weight, in my opinion. Big proponent of that.
And just so, not as a sales pitch, but just to talk about what that is or what that advantage is basically it has your ballistics built in with a heads-up display, and then you can use whatever rangefinder at that point to lays.
It's all in yardages, right? So it's essentially like I like to compare it to, like, we've done the laser marked turrets, BTC turrets, for years. The challenge is if conditions change and those numbers are off a little bit, with that dynamic heads-up display in there, that's able to adjust to conditions on the fly. And so now you have like a perfected BDC turret, essentially, right? Or something that can adjust to those conditions, so it's always accurate. And then you're always working in yards. And so, you've got a buddy with a rangefinder that probably doesn't have your ballistics programmed into his unit, or a guide for that matter, or whatever else says, oh, that buck's at 450. How do you make that shot? Well, if it's all in yards inside your scope, you don't have to transfer data back and forth. It's all built right there into your system.
Yeah.
Kind of a shameless plug, but it does work. Yeah. Really, really nice.
Well, I see you using it, and then I saw, the guy, who's the guy with him and his wife compete together? Andy is the gal's name. Adam and Andy. Does Adam use a PMR as well? Somebody else did that was competing. That was competitive.
Yeah, I think I know Nephi Cole, good friend of the program, has been running one for quite a while. He's got one on his scope, and I think there were a few others floating around. I think Grant Urich, don't quote me on it, but I think Grant might have had one on his rifle as well.
Okay.
And a lot of good solutions out there, right?
Yeah.
And but yeah, that's fun to see all the different equipment. A lot of quality gear.
Yeah,
floating around.
One other piece I'd say is the big equipment it's big in the NRL world. It's because it's a little bit heavy. I would say it still transfers to the hunting world for sure. But is the double poles and the triple poles.
Oh, the big bipods.
Yeah, they're heavy, but that's kind of where was ours, the Elevate, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like our solution. It's the lighter version type thing, right? All carbon fiber, you can get up real high. That's what I'm seeing is a huge advantage in these competitions. Yeah. And then obviously it helps in the hunting world to have some bipods that can that have a lot more capability.
I'll get maybe up on my soapbox and maybe into the weeds a little bit more than necessary here, but those triple poles, they're kind of all the rage. Everybody wants to have the triple pole. It's this bipod that extends to, I don't know what it is, 3.5 or 4 feet tall or something like that. And, if you're playing that game, and every sport, you're right, like it evolves to the point where you're maximizing your potential to compete in the sport and be competitive and perform well. I think that's where it kind of hurts me just a little bit seeing us depart from the hunting DNA of the series. You can't fault a guy for wanting to run it if it's an advantage. And in a lot of cases it is. That bipod, it's fantastic, awesome piece of gear. It's 2.5 pounds to $1,000. Sure, there are probably a lot of guys out there hunting with that bipod on their hunting rifle. For me, it's not even remotely a possibility, right? It's like I'm a weight weenie, I'm shooting 8-pound, sub 8-pound guns, in a lot of my, mount hunting stuff. And I just refuse to carry that kind of weight, that kind of bulk. It's a little bit noisy and tends to catch on stuff. But I'll tell just a quick story. I've competed with my Magna 6.5 PRC for years. And like I say, I'm not a top competitor by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah. You won the division in the match that I attended.
Once. I got lucky probably, but I compete in the light division, guns under 12 pounds, because to me that 12 is too heavy for me. I'm weighing down my hunting gun to take it to a match, to be a little bit more competitive. But usually running before we had ours and like an Atlas or something like that. Now that we've got the Elevate bipod, 12 ounces, pretty easy to put on there. And I'm still, a pound or half pound under the weight limit there. Mm-hmm. Well, I thought, what, all these guys these triple poles are all the rage, researching on, where do we go next with our next bipod design with our bipod line. I'm going to try one and just see what it's about. And if I really like it. So I went and figured out how to, picked up a triple pole, put it on my gun, had to swap out the stock for a lighter stock. I had to swap out my rings for lighter rings. I got down to the point of, I think you and I were laughing about this. I mean, this is just to prove a point and kind of to because I can't knock on it unless I try it. I was 3D printing feet for that bipod to make weight. I put skeletonized bolt handle on my gun. I just did all the things to game it out, right? And my gun for that last match that I shot was 12.00 pounds, right? And I made weight barely by the skin of my teeth. And I'll say, there are some nice advantages to that, to running that bipod in an NRL match. But the measures that I had to go to, the hoops I had to jump through to be able to put that bipod on my gun versus run the 12-ounce Elevate that I've run for quite a while, to me, just the compare contrast, the difference there, and the level of effort needed and the cost involved was monumental. And for a relatively minor advantage. Now, maybe if with more time behind that triple pull, I'm sweeping the price. I won't be, but you know what I mean? Maybe I gain some more advantage with more time behind that piece of kit. But I think that proved to me just how awesome that little bipod of ours, which was designed for hunting. It's not a bad bipod. It's pretty versatile. It'll go to 19 inches max height. Not quite 3 feet or whatever some of those others are. But that was kind of just a long-winded story. But it's kind of fun to see how that plays out, and the different lengths that people go to gain that little teeny tiny bit of advantage. Competition.
Yep. And people are going to have different preferences, and some guys are they're going to refuse to use that stuff because it's like, hey, this is, and that brings us to another point, but I'm going to use what I use on my hunting trip.
And that's, and that's where I said it kind of breaks my heart a little, because I guess at the end of the day, I am maybe just a little bit of a purist, and I kind of want to see it sticking to the hunting thing. You see a lot of guys using tripods, and a tripod is a phenomenal tool, but you see some of these guys, they come up to, it doesn't matter what the stage is. If it's not just like a plain flat prone, they're just pulling out their tripod to shoot it off the tripod
with a flat screen,
and they're crushing it, right?
Yeah.
It just it kind of just makes me roll my eyes just a little bit, because how and there are guys out there that will shoot everything off of a tripod. I'm not knocking on it, but I guess it's different strokes for different folks. But I'm going to get prone no matter what it takes to get there, because it's just how I hunt.
Yeah. And tell me if I'm wrong, but it's not so much the NRL is like, hey, we're going to create this so that we can make better hunters in America. It's more like, here's another sport that is more closely related to hunting.
It really is the charter of the NRL to make better hunters.
Is that right?
I mean, that really is what the NRL Hunter Series. I mean, that is the focus and the intent. There's more to it than that. It has become an end in and of itself. But the stated goal is to make better hunters and bring your traditional, the greatest thing is to see the guys showing up with their Winchester, 270, whatever, and it's all these other guys with their tricked out 6.5 Creedmoors and 25 Creedmoors and match guns. Mm-hmm. And then the guys showing up with their clearly their true hunting rig, and still hitting a bunch of targets.
Yeah.
That makes me happier than anything.
Yeah.
And I think just about anybody that's been around these matches a lot would agree 100% there. It's that's what we want to see, is these new guys coming in and getting a little bit more practice with their hunt rig before fall.
Yeah. Well, then, I mean, to each their own, but maybe then I should be a little more annoyed, because I sit there and I'm like, I get it. It's a sport. It's just, that's how these guys are going to do it. But my true self is like, you wouldn't bring that tripod with a diving platform on the top of it out hunting with you. But so I'm thinking of it the other way. Maybe I should be like, hey guys, let's keep it this way. But that's why there's different divisions.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And everybody's there for a different reason, and I think we can achieve everybody's goals at once.
Yeah,
for sure.
Why? This was something I noticed this year. Why do you think there was more hunters? It felt like there were more like the purest hunters, or let's call it new NRL shooters, than this year. Last year, it seemed like we had a lot of guys who literally brought hunting rigs up there, 28 nozzlers, 300 Win Mags, like in whatever, stock off the shelf, not throwing any crazy stuff on there. And I'm not getting any of those awesome fancy guns that have all that stuff.
Right.
But it just seemed that last year was more hunters than competitors in the sport kind of thing.
I think we, as Gunworks, we draw from a little bit different pool than your traditional match crowd, right? And so I think we're able to pull some of those guys that are a little bit more hunting focused in.
Sure.
Just by the nature of our audience and our reach. But yeah, I mean, I think it's growing. It's taken a few years to kind of had this kind of core original group that kind of mostly came in from the competition crowd. But I think as it grows, we're starting to gain more attention from your traditional hunters. And, they're talking to buddies saying, hey, I went and shot one. And it's 10 years worth of hunting practice in a day because, you're shooting 12 stages and, a bunch of these targets. I think guys are learning that it's a really great opportunity to practice.
Yeah. Well, okay, let's keep going. How about the mentality as you shoot these competitions? Like, what goes through your brain and the roller coaster of emotions, and how can that be transferred to hunting? I'll say my specific.
Yeah.
The one I shot down at gunsight stunk. I mean, I was middle of the pack, and I thought
being your first ever match.
Hey, thanks, Landon. You keep saying that,
but but really.
Yeah, well, thanks, but I was disappointed, which is good. Again, a consequence. I felt ashamed almost, which I think is a great training thing. Is you need to put yourself in positions that are uncomfortable and you're not used to. And so I attended a course a couple months ago, and same deal. It's like I teach every day. I'm shooting all the time. And I go to this course, and guess who shows up? A bunch of dudes who are better than me. And so I'm like, again, middle of the pack, kind of lower of the pack, I'd say, at this course. And there's probably, I can't remember, but like 14 of us, And man, it was like, I was like, I'm not going to say that I teach shooting because these guys are all better than me. They should be teaching me how to shoot, But it just opened up a whole new realm. I got competitive. I was out of my comfort zone completely. Yeah. I got in positions that I've been teaching it, but I didn't do that for a long time, So competing and going to courses is a lot of times the only time you're really going to get yourself out of your comfort zone. And that was I can't remember where I was coming from with that. It was, the emotions that you go through.
Yeah.
Okay, so shooting competition, you get out there, you think you're going to crush it, and then first stage you zero it because you can't find a dang target.
Yeah,
that was me.
Yeah,
and boom, down in the dumps immediately. Start feeling sorry for yourself. And I mean, hunting is like that, where it's like the whole first day you can't find anything.
Emotional roller coaster, right? Yeah, that's the name of the game with hunting.
I mean, guys who've been out there and they love the art or the experience. I don't care if I'm taking my rifle for a hike. Some of those guys. I'm not that guy. I'm the guy that's like, I'm going out there and I want to shoot something and I want to come back and now we can enjoy it, kind of thing. But the hunt is awesome. I like pulling the trigger. Yeah. Hunting is tough, right? Sure. And some people love it. Some people are like me, where it's kind of like, I just like pulling the trigger. But when I don't see something the first day, immediately doubts just start creeping in.
Yeah.
And you just got to move on and next day, new day.
Yeah.
Next target, new target. And I see that a lot in the NRL. A lot of guys, either get frustrated or there's some guys who are just cool as cucumber the whole time.
Yeah. No, I think you hit the nail on the head. The comfort zone thing is absolutely right? I mean, that is a universal truth that the greatest growth always comes from being put in positions where you're outside your comfort zone. Like that's just a universal truth, and it 100% applies here. I see so many guys that, I'm like, hey, you're a diehard hunter, you love to shoot, like come out and shoot one of these with me. And it's like, and you can just see people like struggling with, this is not to knock on people. It's just, it's how humans are, especially guys, there's this ego, right? And it's like, man, it's like I don't want to go, look bad in front of all these other guys. And even if it's not like conscious, it's kind of this subconscious thing, right? It's like it's scary, it's different, and you don't want to go put yourself out there and look bad.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell guys it's still hard to overcome. I mean, I've been in that position where the first match is like, man, what am I doing? Why am I here? I think friend dragged me out to it or something like that. And but I'm telling you that the crowd there is so welcoming and so, it's like nobody's judging you and saying, man, you zeroed that stage, because they probably just zeroed the stage before, and they shot 10 matches so far this year, right? It happens to everybody. And so I'm telling you, like, there's no judgment there. Like people are excited to see people there come out and kind of put themselves out there and learn.
Mm-hmm. There's something to be said about that with the inviting community.
Exactly right.
I saw a guy's scope go down, and there's 10
guys are like, hey, I got an extra scope. Yeah. Let's grab some rings and let's get you going again.
And it wasn't just some turd scope they had sitting on whatever in the back of their truck. It was like their next, their fancy one in the truck. They were willing to let this guy use it.
I've seen guys, top competitors, take brand new guys they've never met under their wing and say, hey, think about this on this next stage, and that worked really well. Think about trying, and they're not trying to just like, exert their or show their superiority. They're truly like coaching and helping people.
Yeah.
And it's a really, really cool, just a really neat, awesome community of people shooting those matches. Then you talked about the emotional roller coaster, right? And it's like, it's so hunting related. You go spend all this time and money and travel and emotional investment into going out, and you're suffering on top of a mountain to try and find that one deer that you've been after all year, that you've scouted, your whole summer, whatever else. It's like, okay, you look at a match now. You signed up months in advance. You paid a couple $100 to come out. You got a hotel. You got work off. Took a weekend away from your family, and now you're out here. Now your reputation or your ego's on the line. Something off the prize tables on the line. You might
go to your wife and tell her that you got,
not being number 99 on the rankings or whatever. It's like that. It all it is very, very applicable, and just a little bit of that pressure and emotional investment that comes to being, that is tied to being successful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, either on the field or in the field. Right?
Sure.
How do you tie it to the training side of things? I think it's really cool that we take what is our mountain course for Long Range University, where we take guys up and teach them how to shoot high angles and tricky winds and tough shooting positions, and we turn that right into an NRL hunter course of fire. Like, it is the exact same place stuff that we're shooting LRU that we're turning into a match.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool.
It is cool. A lot of guys just don't have some place to shoot like that. You might have, anyone come up to Wyoming and get on some BLM and National Forest something and shoot. But to have targets set up for you rather than shooting rocks, and scenarios and timed things and whatnot, and some instruction. That's the big one too. Is you may think you know what you're doing, and a lot of times you do. Sometimes there's just a little bit better way to do it, right?
Yeah.
Sheep Mountain is such an awesome venue, not because of just the view and whatnot, but because of the opportunity it gives you to be in positions you've never been in, to shoot targets that are at crazy angles or in crazy, updrafts or, side angle hill stuff, using a tripod like you've never used it before instead of on flat ground. It creates a bunch of opportunity that you maybe didn't even know was out there. And that's why it's a big venue for guys who are about to go on a big hunt.
Yeah.
Right? The big elk hunt they paid for, the sheep hunt that they finally drew or whatever. A lot of times that's the kind of guys we're getting. And then also you're getting the guys who are just like, hey, I want to shoot in the mountains. Like, this is cool. I want to learn angles. I want to learn
my vacation for the summer.
Yeah. And Yellowstone's right there.
Sure.
So take the family too. But it's on the way to Yellowstone.
Yeah.
But that's it right there. It's providing an opportunity for people to use their equipment like they haven't before, and like they're about to when they go on their big hunt. So it's beautiful, it's challenging, and then come shoot the NRL shoot as well and get yourself even better, right?
Sure.
We have a couple guys who are literally doing that, where they came to a level 1, level 2.
Yeah.
They came to a level 3.
Yeah.
Now they're gonna. A couple of them are shooting different. The ones I'm thinking of, they didn't shoot the Sheep Mountain Shootout, but they're competing now.
A couple of these others.
Yeah, a couple of these other guys they're competing in some of these other NRL matches because they have these big hunts coming up.
Yeah.
And it's there you go. You hit everything. You're doing some basic training, you're doing some advanced training, you're doing some competing, and now you're actually putting it all to the test. And I guarantee they're going to be a better hunter.
Absolutely.
All of those. Yeah.
Absolutely. No doubt about it.
I mean, there's the passion in me of all that, right? It's all this combined, and it's a huge community of Gunworks, cool, NRL, competition shooters, hunters, Gunworks customers. It's this whole big, I would call it a family, because we all have the same mindset. And it like you said, and what NRL is trying to do, it creates better hunters. It's this awesome family, and it's this cool networking. Man, we meet some cool people.
Heck yeah.
Anyway, sorry, I can go on forever, but I think the big things here, guys, is train, not just by yourself, but with others, and compete, and hunt a lot.
And train with purpose. Right.
Go. Yeah.
I think that's kind of like, if you could sum it all up into one, it would be train with the kind of intent and the structure that it is actually translating into success in the field. And I think the element that many of us are missing, obviously getting the trigger time is one thing, and being a student of the gun and understanding, all your ballistics and your wind calls and all that stuff, the mechanics and the fundamentals. But then being efficient with the system and your equipment to be able to pull off a shot under duress and under a time crunch, that's big. Whether you're running out and doing practice runs in the mountains, or you're coming out to LRU and we're putting you under on a timer, or you're coming out to shoot a match, if you incorporate that into your trigger time, I promise it's going to make drastic improvements in how you shoot and what the outcome of your hunts this fall are going to be.
Yep. And put the ego aside, right?
Yeah.
It's like put the ego aside and just do it. And I wish I, practiced what I preach there, but that
we could all do better.
Yeah.
All of us. Yeah.
So sure. Anyway, that's what this was about. And thanks for meeting me with that. And hopefully you got to say some stuff about the Sheep Mountain Shootout that you
probably said way too much. I felt like I just kind of talked to you most of the time.
No,
yeah. I'm passionate about it. Right.
Yeah.
And
I mean, you were the director of it, man. You ran the show.
Here's the thing, like that name doesn't mean a lot. Someone's got to call the shots, but there were so many people involved in making that event successful. I mean, probably haven't even tabulated, probably had 50 people involved between ROs and staff, and all the people making sure that the barbecue, the beer and brat night we did the Friday night went well, and the awards dinner at Cassie's went well, and all the ROs up in the mountain dedicating an entire weekend sitting out in the hot wind. It takes a lot of people and a lot of effort to pull off an event like that, and so I definitely can't take even a little bit of credit there.
Well, I'm giving you some. So anyway, yeah, thanks guys, and hopefully you guys come out to some training with us, and the NRL Sheep Mountain Shootout is going to happen again next year.
Put it on the calendar for sure.
Good. All right. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Yep.
Thanks, Landon.
Till next time.
If you like what you're hearing here, please take a second and give us a 5-star rating and a positive review on iTunes or on your favorite podcast app. We appreciate your feedback and suggestions for topics you'd like discussed or questions you want answered on the podcast. You can reach out on Facebook or Instagram, or send us an email to podcast@gunworks.com. Also, be sure and check out our full offering of long-range gear at gunworks.com. Use promo code LRP for free shipping on any order.